Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So till now we have discovered what are packages, and also before that we have discovered what are strings in Java, correct? The predefined methods that we get in our string class, and after that we have discussed what are packages, what are the best practices of declaring a packages, like how do we name a package using a reverse domain syntax, and we have also discussed that how we can import packages and how we can wrap this class inside a package using a package keyword. So now let's discuss about access modifier, or it is often known as access specifier as well. Okay, so do not get confused with these words. All right, yes, so we have previously said that we don't have to worry about this, what is this public, correct? Now it's time to learn what is public and what are the alternative, or what else I can use over here. So let's learn that thing as well. So now there are four kinds of access modifier. One is public, then we can say private, a default, and the protected. Yes, so these are the kinds of access specifier that we have in Java. So for now you can just note down that what are the points, or what are the key points of each of them. So public is accessible to all. Just in short, I can say that public is accessible to all, private is accessible to its class, default is accessible to its package, and that's the reason why it is also known as package private. We'll see, and we'll see some proofs as well whether I am stating the correct thing or not. And the protected is accessible to its package plus child classes outside the package. So just note this point down, and then we'll discuss that what do I mean by all of this thing. So I hope you are taking screenshot or making your own notes, and it is highly recommended to make your own notes, and please ensure that you are writing all these 4 points for each one of them, because later you just have to go through these 4 points just to revise the concept of public, private, default, and protected. All right, yes. So now if I declare anything with a public keyword, which means I can access it anywhere, let it be in different package. So let's say I have something in my string class, and this string class is inside our strings package, correct? I want to access it inside my test class. This is our test class. So now you will say that you can import it, correct? I can say that import, my package name is com.example dot strings, and my class name is capital S strings, correct? So this is how I can import that, and I can invoke the properties, or I can invoke some function of it, correct? But now there is a need of this access modifier, so let's try this, and then I'll just help you to learn more about this thing. All right, so now yes, so in my string class we have a run function, we have a run method, correct? I have declared a run method. So this run method is doing nothing but just printing that, hey, I am running, it is printing that inside running of, right, let me correct this, running inside of string class. All right, so now if I call it from anywhere, it will be printing this. So right, so now can I import that? You will say yes, definitely. So import com.example.strings, and which class I want to import. If I use the star, then also it's fine, and I can also provide the hard-coded name for my class. So this will specifically import that particular class. And let's say if I have 10 classes and I use a star syntax, which means I will be importing all of the classes, correct? So if you want to specify a particular class you want to import, you can use the particular class name. We have already discussed it in our previous session. So now I just want to create object of it, strings s, because run is a instance method, and for calling an instance method I need to create a object. Now can I do s dot run? Definitely yes. Now if I run this program, can you see the output? It says that running inside of string class. Now we don't have any run method over here, correct? We are using the run method of a strings class. Okay, this strings class is defined by us. Okay, do not get confused with the string class that is predefined in Java. It is not that. This is a strings class. We have just defined it in our previous session just for practicing it, correct? Yes. So we don't have any run method over here, but we are trying to invoke it from our test class. Now if I make the run method as private, which means I have said that privates are accessible to its class only, correct? So now let's say I make this run method, instead of public I make it as private. Now can you see we get an error that the method run from the type string is not visible, because as I said the visibility of a private stuff is only accessible or is only visible to its own class. So it is not visible to this class. It won't be visible to even student, not to student 2 as well, though they are in the same package, but then too they won't be able to access it, because run is a private method and privates are always, and I can say that only accessible to their own class. So I cannot try to call it after or other than their class. I cannot try to invoke them, correct? Yes. So now let's make it, if you don't specify any keyword like this, it is by default, or I can say that it is a default access modifier, but then too we are getting an error. Can you state what is the error? Again the error says that hey, the method run from the type strings is not visible, because as I said that default is accessible in its package, correct? Or I can say the complete package, just keep this thing in mind, complete package. But now this strings class is not in the package where test class is situated, correct? So strings is inside a strings package and this test is in a different package called as objects, com.example.objects. So which means that we cannot access default in non-package or the class that are not in the same packages. Now we have seen that if it was public, which means it is accessible to all of them, even their class member can call them, even their non-class member, even their non-package members can invoke them. We have tried this and it was our very first example for this session. Now protected, again you won't be able to understand that what are child classes, no worries, but for now just keep that in mind. It is packages, means its own package plus child classes. So let's say if test class inherits string class, for now you won't understand that what is inheritance, that's truly fine. We'll be covering that what is inheritance, how inheritance is achieved, what is the use of that in our oops concept sessions, so do not worry about this. But for now the main thing that we want to emphasize on is protected, am I right? So yes, so if I make that this text class extends strings class and I make the run method as protected, which means this test can invoke the strings classes method that is run, am I right? So now let me make it, now let me extend this. Again we won't be able to do this for now, and the reason is same because it is default for now, and default can only be accessed within the same packages. And now again test is not lying in the same package where string is, so we will get an error, correct? So now let me make it protected. All right, now can I do this? All right, again we are not able to do this. Okay, yes, we'll see this. Yes, so it is asking that it is not visible, you have to change its visibility to the public, correct? So now if I make it as public, we won't get any errors. Now there are some conditions for protected, and which we should not clear, means we should not learn for now, because it will be very confusing, because there are some concept related to the child classes and the parent classes. As I have said that you don't have to worry about this child class and what are parent class, or I can say that the subclasses and the super classes. So do not worry about this kind of syntax for now, and that's the reason why we were getting this error. Do not worry about this. But for now what we have understood, that means for protected what we can keep in mind, that invoke within the package plus child classes or the subclasses which extends them. So for now we don't have, means we haven't completed the inheritance stuff, so protected won't be much clear. But yes, public is accessible to all, private is accessible to its class only, and test, or I can say that, sorry, the default one is only accessible to its package, correct? All right, so now can you tell me that why main method is public? See, we have discussed about the void, we know the name of the main method is main, we have discussed about why main method is static. Now the thing left is public, correct? So as you know, if you want to run something, if my JVM wants to run something, it must be accessible, correct? The thing must be accessible to it. So if I want to run this instruction, I must be, means I must have access to my main method. To have access to my main method, I must make the main method as public, because if I don't mark my main method as public, or let's say I make it as private, which means my JVM cannot invoke it, because it is not visible beyond this curly braces, it is not accessible, or it is not visible outside this class. Yes, so now that's the reason why, definitely because we make it as public, that's the reason why, because we make it accessible throughout, or I can say from anywhere. And you are right, Divya, that you are saying that so that it can be accessed from anywhere, correct? So if I make my main method as public, then only our JVM will be able to search it, or then only a JVM will be able to look for it. Otherwise, again, its visibility is not public, which means JVM cannot access it, or JVM cannot see it, and will get an error that main method not found, or will get an error that please mark your main method as public, static, void and main, correct? So now we have completed what are the access modifiers, correct? Yes, protected is not much clear, or we can say that it is not at all clear, and that's totally fine for now. We will see that in inheritance we were getting some errors, so do not think like we are not completing it now, so we will not be doing that, because if I took that concepts for now, it will make the things very confusing, because if once we know that what is inheritance, what are parent classes and subclasses, then it will be very easy for us to understand that thing. So that there's no sense of taking that things now about the protected and making things confusing. So we'll see how protected works when we deal with inheritance, and probably we'll be learning about OOPS from our next session onwards, that is from tomorrow's sessions. I hope it is clear to everyone. Now one thing in the main method that is remaining was this ARGS. correct? So now when you Google this, that what are string args, you might not get a correct answer, or you will see that there are some command line commands that are passed to this method, correct? All right, that is some pre-computation that happens for this main method from the command line, and that we don't do, correct? But now the question is there any way that we can use this command line arguments, or we can provide the command line arguments as well? So the answer to this is yes, we can provide the command line arguments, and I'll show you how. So you know that how arrays works. So what I can do is, if args is an array, I can print its length, correct? See, the length comes out to be 0 because there is no arguments for now. There might be some arguments that happen behind the scenes and that might not have happened, correct? But now my question is, can we provide any command line arguments? The answer to this, as I have already said, that yes. So let us provide some command line argument to this. All right. Okay, let me just open the terminal over here. I don't know why terminal is yes. So I'm just opening the terminal right in the Eclipse. So now this is my terminal. Now what I can do is, you know that we use java test.java command. Sorry, we need to first compile this test.java for compiling. All right, don't know. Are we in the correct? All right, we have opened the strings. Sorry, I'm just yes. So now we are in the terminal for this current class, that is our test. And now if I say java c test dot java, it compiles fine, or do we get any errors? We get errors, cannot find symbols. Yes, for now do not, let's not extend this because we are working from command line and it's a different way and it is not present in the same directory, so we don't have to worry about this. All right, now let me show this thing in terminal. Yes, now if I say java c test dot java, yes, it compiles fine. Now can I provide any command line argument while running? The answer, as I said, that yes, we can pass. So let's say testing the command line arguments. Now what the error do we get? Cannot find or load main class test. What's wrong over here? What do we have? So let me just change this thing. Does this work now? No. All right, testing. In a normal terminal we don't have to specify the extension. Testing cmd line args. Now can you see the output comes out to be 4 because we have provided some arguments that is testing space cmd space line and space args, correct? So which means I am passing some arguments. The arguments that I have passed is testing cmd line args, which means they are altogether 4 commands because I have separated them by space. So what happens behind the scenes, this space separated, space is the delimiter, so this space separated commands just get stored inside the args. So now definitely args have 4 commands and each, that's the reason why the length of the args comes out to be 4. Previously it was 0, correct? Yes. So now if I try to print this, so let's say if args dot length greater than 0, then only for int I in args, we know this syntax is correct, system dot out dot println, correct? Sorry, it is string. Yes. So now if I print this, for now, see, I have run it simply, so we don't get any output. The output comes out to be 0 because args length is 0. But now if I write some provide some command in the terminal, then let's see what is the output. So let me move to the terminal and let me specify the same commands. Now can you see, we get testing cmd line args from this loop, and then we get the length as 4. So this is how we can provide some command line arguments as well to this string args. And let's say if you want, I'm just giving you an example, it is not the any best practices to follow, but now just greater than 1, which means, or let me say greater than 0, which means there is at least one command. If args 0 equals to John 123, then system dot out dot println correct, else system dot out dot println incorrect. I'm just giving you an example so that it makes little bit sense that why the means how we can use the command line expressions or command line. I'm compiling the code again and I'll just run this java test.java, and now let me say John 123. We get the output as incorrect. Yes. So now can you tell me why do we get incorrect? If you have already guessed that, then that's fantastic because you have a clear idea of this operator. Because why, when you use this equals to with 2 strings, it will compare the memory address, and if you want to check the content, you use the equals or the compare to method, correct? So I'll just use that equals now. If I run this, oh sorry, I need to use the terminal first. I need to compile this, correct, and then I'll just run this, and now the output comes out to be correct. So this is how you can just play with this args argument. You can pass a number of command line arguments and it will just get accumulated inside this string array, and then you can just work around with this kind of instructions. So till now whatever we have completed thoroughly. Why do we write a class? Means class is a keyword. Why do we write public, static, void? What is the meaning of if, else, for, while, and why do we need int, why do we need string, what is scp. So now if you have any doubts till now, just ask me, or if I have left anything behind, please ask me, except the protected stuff, because we are going to learn that when we learn the inheritance. Okay, yes. So now the next topic is the final keyword. Okay, so now we'll learn what is final keyword. So a final keyword, let me just clear the screen. Right, you are asking that which IDE I am using. So I am using Eclipse IDE. You can get it for free on Google. All right. Okay, so now we'll see what is final keyword. So final keyword is a keyword that you declare before a variable. Yes, so final can be used with a variable, can be used with methods as well, and can be used with classes as well. Correct. Now we'll see what is the need of this final keyword, and we'll see how we can use this. So if you use final keyword, it is used for creating constants, and we'll see what are constants. If you see methods, which means you are preventing method overriding. Again, this concept we don't have to worry about this. So prevent overriding, no worries for now. We'll see what is this. And if you use final keyword with class, then it prevents the inheritance. So again, we don't know inheritance, so this point is not of our interest for today's session. So the only interest for today's session lies in the final variables. Correct. So we'll see what are final variables and how we can use them. But as I have already specified that we can use final with methods, final with classes as well. But one thing that you need to notice, or one thing that you need to note down, that final keyword cannot be used with constructors. Okay, so just note this, and if you are not sure about this, you can just give it a try. All right, so now let me explain you the final variables. So final variables, you know, variables are of two type. One is static, in which you use the static keyword. Other is just simply, correct, like this. So static int a and normal int a. So now if you have, these are the types of variable that we have already discovered, am I right? So if you include final over here and final with static, or I can say static final, so these are the two ways you can use the final keyword, because we have discovered two kinds of variables for now, instance and static variable. Correct. Yes. So now over here, what happens, the difference between these two, as you can say, like as you can probably guess, that if you use static, then only one copy, which means if you use final static with means final with a static variable, which means there will be only one copy of that particular variable. Yes. Now if you use over here, the number of copies of a will be with respect to the object, correct? So n number of objects, n number of copies for a. But now one thing you have to keep in mind, that final, if you declare anything as final, which means it cannot be changed, cannot be changed. All right, so now these are object specific. So at the time of the object declaration, I can initialize it once, but I cannot reinitialize, but I can initialize it once after first initialization. Correct. So let us discuss this, the first one, the instance one. All right, so over here, right over here, what I'll do is, in a main method, I'll just have a, I'll declare a final variable over here, final int a is equals to, or I don't initialize this. Do we get any error? Initialize final field a at declaration. The blank field a may not have been initialized. Alright, let us see that whether we can initialize with using a object or not. So now if I do t dot a is equals to, it is a kind of int, so let me say 78. Do we get any error? Yes, we get any error. Alright, no worries. Can I initialize it with using a constructor? We know what are constructors, correct? Constructors are the special kind of functions, we can say, that are used for initializing our object states. So now is the error gone? Yes. Now can you tell me why we are getting this error over here? Over here, right over here. So now you would have already guessed that the error are because we are not means we are not passing any arguments over here, and our test, we have defined one test constructor which takes one argument. So we have defined one constructor, so that we need to pass a constructor, or sorry, we need to pass an argument over here, and now the error is gone. So which means I can initialize a normal instance, or I can say that I can initialize a final int a, which is a kind of instance variable, correct? This is an instance variable, so I can initialize it with using a constructor. So it is fine if you do not initialize at the time of declaration. Just note this point down, because in the interviews you might get this kind of question, that can you can you leave, or can you just leave the final variable int a without declaring, or without initializing it? The answer is fine, but you have to initialize it using a constructor, or at the time of object creation, we can say that, correct? All right, now let me make this field as static. Now can you see we get an error? What error do we get? The blank field a must not have been initialized. So the reason is, static variables are based on classes, are class variables, am I right? So this kind of variables are class variables, so their copies are not related to each and every object. There will be only one copy. It was fine when it was just a normal instance variable, because 10 objects, 10 a variable, and each of them must have their particular value to a, but it should not be reinitialized again and again. But now when I make it a static, which means I am having only one copy, and if you are having any one copy, why there is a need of waiting for creation of any objects? So you have to initialize at the time of declaration itself. So I have to do it like this. So this is the difference between final and final static variables. So just note these points down. So you can initialize a normal instance final variable using a constructor, but you cannot do this over here. So you have to declare, you can declare it at the time of declaration of the particular variable, and you can also initialize the final variable, final instance at the time of declaration, or it's up to you whether you use a constructor to initialize it. So I hope it's clear to everyone that why do we need, or now the question is, why do we need this kind of variables? Why do we need a final variable? So let's say you are having some predefined value. So let's say the pi value. So pi value is fixed 3.14 and something like this. So you know that this thing is never going to get changed. So why not make it final? It will help us to like also help us to it will give us error when we try to change this, and we know that we want errors if we try to change this, because pi value is something that is fixed and I do not want this thing to be changed. So if you want something like this, that you don't want this thing to be changed, you make it as final. So now if I have static int a and pi, I'll explain you the, or let me make it as, I'll explain you the naming convention for this as well. 3.14. so now this is the pi value. Now you don't want this thing to be changed, so that's the reason why I have made it final, because you know that pi value will be same, let it be anywhere, let it be on any code, correct? So that's the reason why you make this kind of variables as constants. These are also called as constants variable, because they are constant, they are not changing, they are never changing. Am I right? Yes. So now your question will be, is there any proof that someone is used this constant variables in Java? Is there any class that have already used this? You can look for integer dot max value, the integer class. We'll see what are integer class, do not worry. But over there we have this integer dot max value, integer dot min value, and I'll just give you a quick brief that this max value means the maximum value that integer or a int can hold. So it is something like 2147 like this, and over here it is the minimum value that a int variable can hold. So this is how you know that these values are never going to get changed, because they will be having the maximum capacity of 4 bytes, correct? And even this will be having the maximum capacity of 4 bytes, but it can start from negative side as well. So the min value goes for the negative range and the max value goes for the positive range, correct? So I hope it is clear to everyone. And now let me tell you the syntax for writing a constant variable. So if you are having a static final, the normal final keywords, normal final, instance final, the variable can be named normally like we do. But if you are using a static final variable like static final alpha, so what you have to do is you have to make this alpha all caps. So this is the best practice that you have to follow. All right, so you have to make this alpha or the name of the variable in all caps. Now the question is, previously we were having two jointing words like alpha beta, let's say. So how we used to write this alpha and b capital, beta, the joining word as capital. Now how we can do this over here? We cannot do alpha and make it small like this. No, as I said, it should be all caps. So this is not done over here. So now what we can do is we can separate the joining words using a underscore, alpha beta. So that's the reason why you will see the integer dot max value like this, sorry, over here like this. So they have underscore between them to separate the two jointing words, right, or two different words. So this is how we can use the final keyword, a final static key constant variables. And now we know the reason, and we also know the difference, that one of them can be initialized using a constructor, while the later one, that is a constant, the static final, cannot be initialized using a constructor, because it is not necessary to initialize this variable using a object, because I should be able to call a static variable even without object. So I have to initialize it at the time of declaration itself. So I hope it makes sense to all of you that how this final keywords can be helpful. All right, you can just practice a bit about this, and if you have any error, if you encounter any error and you are finding it difficult to solve it, I will be helping you. You just have to post it out in the comment section. All right, so till now, do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts? So you can ask me. And do you have any doubts regarding any of our previous sessions? Then also you can ask me and we'll be clearing it now itself. All right. So we have discussed about what are final. Now I hope that you have understanding of what are packages, what are import statements, what are final keyword, what are private, what are public, what are default, except the protected one. No worries. We'll see that one as well. And you know why main method is public, static, void, main, and the string args. And we have discussed a lot till now. We know the complete basics. We can say that we know the complete basics up to the, or we can say that before the oops part we know the complete basics. We are complete with all the concepts till now. We have discussed the instance variables, the static variables as well, the local variables as well, the varargs, the arrays, the strings. So we have completed a lot. Now it's time to move to object oriented programming. So now in our next session we'll be learning what is inheritance, what are the type of inheritance, and how inheritance can be useful. And then after that we'll see encapsulation and abstraction. So till then, if you have any doubts, you can just reach out to me, or you can just post your doubts in the comment section. All right. So do you have any doubts? You are asking that can you tell me about which is the best platform to practice Java programming? See, there are a lot of programming questions on Google. If you just browse, that it depends upon your level, means the level that you want to practice. If you just want a basics problem, you can just Google it and you can get the basic problems easily. Correct. So you can just try some pattern printing just for getting fluency in the loops, like for loop, while loop, and all. So you can just practice some pattern printing problem. And for recursions, you can use the factorial, Fibonacci, the sum of n natural number for now, just for the basic concepts. Later, when you move to DSA, there are a lot of stuff and algorithm that you should be knowing for proceeding further with a hard level or medium level questions. These are just a basic, a beginner kind of question that makes you friendly with your programming language. So these patterns and Fibonacci, factorial, printing sum of n natural numbers, and printing patterns like star, 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 like this. These are just basic beginner programs, but this will help you to get fluent in your codes. This will help you to understand that how your code is working, that what is the internal working of the code, so that when you proceed with a higher level of the questions, you will be, or you should be able to easily grasp the concept of that how this particular loop is working. All right, because you have cleared your basics using this kind of problems. You are asking that for interviews do we need DSA knowledge? So you should, so I can say that it is not like that everyone asks about the DSA. If you want, I can create a video on that how one should prepare for interviews. Like, is DSA always necessary, or shall I directly go to DSA, or shall I do anything else? This might be questions for you, for freshers. So if you want, you can just tell me. I will create a video based on this and you can refer this, because it is not like that you should not do DSA, and but it is not like that as well that you should always do DSA on, means only DSA. So there is a lot of stuff between this. So if you want, I can create a video on this. All right. Okay. Do you have any other doubts? So do you have any other doubts? You can ask me now, and we'll catch up in our next session. Yes, so DSA and algo means, DSA means data structures and algorithm. So we'll see what do I mean by that. Okay, so I'll just create a different video for that because it is not needed in our Java sessions, correct? All right, so do you have any doubts? No. If you have, you can just ask me or post your doubts in the comment section, and see you all tomorrow at the same time.